Welcome back to the Aftermatch with Kirst Beav. Come for the rugby, stay for the Aftermatch. Beav, it is end-of-year tour time, all the northern tours for all the Southern Hemisphere teams, 4 tests for the All Blacks, 5 tests for the Springboks. So there's a lot riding on this end-of-year tour.
Yeah, absolutely, and it seems quite exciting. I don't know if it's just because of the quality of games that are coming up or the fact we've already had a Lions tour this year and there's already been, I guess, a bit of chit-chat about where the power of rugby lies. But no, I can't remember being this excited for end-of-year tours for a long time, Kirst.
Where does the power of rugby lie, Beav?
Well, I mean, you've got the Boks and the All Blacks, who I think are out there, if not in the top 2, they're in the top 3 together, and then there's France. And then I think there's just a little bit of a gap.
Then there's a gap, is there?
Just like that. Not a huge gap, but
Where
there is
are
a gap.
you, Irish fans? Where are you? I know your comment.
Yeah, I mean, this might not age well. This comment could last all of 5 days. But at the moment, I think there's a top 3, and then there's just a little bit of a, let's just say that the width from a ruler. For those who, are still using the pen and ruler to underline their schoolwork. And then I think we've got a couple of teams.
Okay, things get interesting this weekend, considering that gap between the All Blacks and Ireland. Andy Farrell back in charge of Ireland at the neutral venue, Soldier Field in Chicago. Farrell picked 21 players from Leinster who were beaten by Munster, and they've only got 4 players in this squad that have gone across to Chicago. So there's already a lot of chit-chat in Ireland. What are you thinking? What are you hearing? What are you expecting? It's almost doesn't even feel like test week because they're not in New Zealand and they're not in Dublin either.
No, but I can only imagine, it's a wonderful, wonderful scenario and occasion for the team. I guess we've already seen Instagrams are in full flight, be it the All Blacks one or the individual players. So I think they're obviously all enjoying being in this big city in America, but I don't think there'll be anything neutral about it. I think it's in Chicago because of the Irish connection to those parts of America. I'd say there'll be 80% Irish and a few Kiwis there. I've got mates who live in America who've already asked, am I there? I said, no, I'm stuck in Singapore. Shout
out to Singapore as well. Plenty of fans there.
A massive shout out to the Singapore locals who are big fans of the Aftermatch. I don't know if they actually know who I am or are watching the right podcast because they keep going, oh, but girl, you do the podcast, so it's quite funny. And I was like, no, you've got the wrong guy here. No, shout out to all the people I've met in the last couple of days who do listen to the Aftermatch and big fans, so it's great. But Chicago, what an occasion for the All Blacks and Ireland to play at Soldier Field. And I guess we talk about it not being a main rugby ground that they often go to, but it already has history, Kirst.
It does have history. 2016, to be exact. The first time in history that Ireland beat the All Blacks. And I don't know if you remember, but the local Chicago team, was it the Cubs, had just won the MLB for the first time in nearly 100 years. So there was so much hype around the city. And then Ireland go and do that. 111-year history. And that was the first time.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think for this All Black team, unfortunately, that record-breaking occasion in Chicago last time the All Blacks were there has probably been a bit of a wake-up call from, almost 10 years ago now, because by all accounts, I wasn't there myself, but a couple of my friends were, and by all accounts, probably didn't quite nail preparation, probably got to turn into tourists a bit more than rugby players. So I think that should probably hold them in good stead as far as the week leading up to this one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to recall things that they were doing. I remember seeing them at a basketball match. There's an NBA game.
Well, I think our dear friend
and other things.
I think our dear friend Israel Dagan was trying to end up on the parade for the Cubs. I think he thought he was a baseballer that week.
So let's talk about the hype around this one. Obviously, whenever the All Blacks and Ireland play each other in the last, 4 to 6 years, it has been enormous, Beav.
Yep.
And this time around is going to be no different, isn't it? What makes Ireland so strong? And it's the start of the season for them. Totally opposite ends of the spectrum, right? we've obviously had a very tough rugby championship, a tough season. We're battle hardened. They're coming off a massive break. Plus, they had so many players in Australia on the British and Irish Lions tour.
Oh, well, I mean, if we dial in on that first part of your statement, Kirst, what makes Ireland so good and great these days is how cohesive they are. They are they are a phenomenal team. And, we talk about team sports and we use the word team, but the Irish are a team and they gel so well. They're all in sync. And when you talk about being in sync and being a team, the thing about Ireland, which they've done so well from the days of Joe Schmidt and now with Farrell over the last few years, is they've all got their job to do and they nail it all perfectly. And when Ireland is absolutely humming, they are doing all of that. They are all in sync. The forwards are doing what they need to do. People are at the right rucks. And what this allows, Kirst, is it allows their game to flow. And if you sit back and watch Ireland, sometimes they are so good to watch because it is so clinical and methodical, but yet done at pace. And because everyone knows their role and everyone's in the right spot and they can just roll through it. And at times, when you're watching them, when they are absolutely humming, it feels like you might have slipped into an Irish training session. It looks that good. So the challenge for the All Blacks is to take them out of it and to take them out of their system, to take them out of that rhythm, which, as I said, at times, it feels like they're at a training session, how good they are when they roll through it.
So who's the key man for them to be able to play like that then?
Oh, it's one of our finest exports and one of the greatest rugby stories of probably the last decade. In Jamison Gibson Park, who left New Zealand as a bit part Super Rugby player and is now arguably the premier halfback in world rugby. And that's not a massive statement that a lot of people would argue with. Yes, you've got Dupont, you've got the fast coming Roygard, I believe, but Jamison Gibson Park, in fairness, has to be in the conversation. And especially without Johnny Sexton, I think his importance even goes higher now, and his responsibilities go higher. We saw how critical and important he was in that Lions series. Look, if he's not in that Lions series, I don't know if they get the job done. He is that important there. He played massive minutes in those test matches. I mean, I can't remember correctly, but I think in some games in that test series, I don't know if they even brought him off, which is these days for a halfback is unheard of. So he's so crucial for them, Kirst. But the other big thing for the All Blacks to try and disrupt what you would call as a machine-like performance from the Irish is you've got to somehow disrupt their set piece. So if you can disrupt their set piece, that disrupts their first ruck. If you make your first ruck either non-existent or slow, then you can disrupt their game. But that's the big but. You have to be able to disrupt their set piece.
So keys for the All Blacks. One, disrupt their set piece. I'm curious because they've always put so much pressure on us in defence. Like if their attacking's impressive, like they're just walking off the training pitch in Dublin, their defence is just as impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But, and without sounding boring and trying to make it too simple, again, it comes back to the set piece. If we can get our set piece on our terms, and therefore that'll allow us to launch and strike off that set piece, be it scrum or line out, then your first ruck's good. And if you can get your first ruck good, then you don't get the ability from a defensive point of view to come quickly, to get line speed. So it's so important. I remember copping a lot of grief when me and you in a former life were on radio, and I may have made the comment that South Africa wouldn't have been too disappointed with their round-robin performance because it might have exposed a few things in the Irish for about half an hour when they couldn't get their game going. And that's because the Springboks were upsetting the Irish set piece. And it's still as true as it was back then. You've got to disrupt their set piece.
You sound the same as before we were preparing to take on the Boks at Eden Park. These are the same things that you were saying. What are the differences between the way Ireland play and the way the Boks play?
Well, I mean, the Irish will play more. The Irish will bring more from a point of view of attack, where they consider, I guess, a safe zone to attack from gets further, and the speed of game. The speed of game traditionally, and you've got to be careful what you say now about the Boks, because after last month, it's you can't really question their
They
speed of
can
game.
play.
But
Yeah.
traditionally, Ireland, with their ball retention and their ruck speed, I would imagine it. And look, I've played against Ireland for a long, long time, but from just the eye, I would say they're as quick as anyone as far as speed of game. And that would be the big difference comparing them to probably anyone in the world of rugby right now.
Okay, some questions for you around the All Blacks. Who starts at centre against Ireland this weekend?
Well, to be fair, this is nothing against anybody else in contention, but it has to be Quinta Pyer, because he was man of the match in the last Test match for the All Blacks, which was against the Wallabies in Perth. And for all those boys who were, especially in the back line, if you're a coach, you couldn't say, yeah, you're not playing this week because of your last one performance, because A, they all went pretty well, and B, they were playing in torrential rain, Kirst. And as a back, you can't put your best foot forward in that sort of condition. So I would imagine, from a back point of view, if they're all fit and available, then it's going to be very similar team that rolled out against Perth and did a fairly commendable job.
Okay, so just to confirm then, name your wingers.
Well, I think Leicester has to stay, and Will Jordan will be back at 15, and Leroy Carter, fan favourite of the Aftermatch. And boy, is he a fan favourite, Kirst. Since we've done that interview with Leroy, I can't walk down the street without people saying, do you know Leroy Carter? We're getting reflective fame at the moment from him.
Lovely, Ricardo. I know he's going to do massive things as well.
Absolutely.
He scored, as we said last time, right? 3 tries in 3 matches. So what's he going to get to on this end of your tour? I reckon he might crack 8.
I think we said 8, didn't we? I think we've given him 5 on this interview tour.
What about your loose trio? What does that look like?
Well, again, I can't see him going past Simon Parker at 6.
Yeah.
And when you consider what's coming, and Ireland are going to bring a big, heavy Northern Hemisphere forward pack. And I can't help but think the Tupou Vai selection at 6 earlier in the year, then the Simon Parker selection at 6. I can't help but think Razor has observed all of World Rugby for the last year or two and decided that to compete with the North and South Africa, he wants a big number 6. So for me, Simon Parker will be the All Blacks number 6, I'd imagine. And then I think it's pretty much status quo, isn't it, Kirst?
Yeah, don't forget no Tupou Vai on the end of your tour, no Patrick Tuipulotu either. So our locking stocks have taken a bit of a hit, but we do have other great players to step in. Time for our Black Magic All Black moment, Beav. Let's talk our moments against Ireland. So here's where we give you a couple of moments and you vote what you think was the better moment in our comments. And make sure while you're at it, like and subscribe to our YouTube page, or go and follow us on all of our social media channels, whatever that may be, Instagram, TikTok, maybe you're a Spotify listener or Apple Podcasts, go and follow us. But our Black Magic moments, Beav, if we talk about 2 iconic moments between the All Blacks and Ireland, what are the 2 moments people need to vote for?
Well, it's tough to go past the Sam Whitelock turnover and that whole game, which will forever be known for me and you, Kirst, as the day that I lost my phone and caused a lot of disruption to my World Cup in Paris.
And he was too cheap to buy himself a new one.
Well,
so
no.
I think you went phoneless for about a week, Beav, because you were really hoping that it was going to turn up.
And shout out to my great former, he's still a mate, but former teammate in the great Jerome, who sponsored my next 4 or 5 days in Paris, because not only did I lose my phone, but I also lost my credit card. So, Jerome, I did promise you we'd split that bill from that Paris restaurant, and I know I haven't paid you back yet, but I will get you the cash. Even though you ordered oysters, which no one can afford when you're going out into a flash restaurant in Paris. But yes, my Black Magic moment against Ireland would have to come from that game. And I guess I was fortunate enough, I reckon I was about 30 metres away from the great Sam Whitelock getting over and causing the penalty in the corner there that sent New Zealand into hysteria. to beat Ireland. But there's been so many, Kirst. I mean, I think about another colleague of ours, Aaron Cruden, and he was reciting it a couple of weeks ago to us, where he had to replay his goal kick because there was an early charge, and that kick going over meant the All Blacks won every Test match that season under the great Steve Hansen, or Sir Steve, as he is on his letterhead these days. So, I mean, there is so many, Kirst. Your favourite Irish moment?
Well, I reckon we probably, if we're picking two, we need to pick one from each side. So, All Blacks beating Ireland in that quarterfinal.
Yep.
Versus the All Blacks series win, that 2-1 series win, first series win for Ireland in New Zealand 2 years out from the World Cup. I reckon those are your two moments. So get voting what you think was the better moment in the comments below for our Black Magic moment of the weekend, Beav.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I don't know how many times I've got to tell you, but it's getting even more and more deeper into Snapper season. And when you're chasing the red monsters, Kirst, don't be a rookie. There's only one lot of gear to use, and that's Black Magic gear. And of course, go get that from blackmagictackle.com or any good retailer. And I mean, let's be honest, if you're a fishing retailer in this country and you don't have Black Magic gear, close your doors. Close your doors.
Red Monster, you make it sound like these are like red sharks running around after you in the water. And that just reminded me, we released that podcast, The Ultimate Tour to South Africa. The amount of comments we've had, Beaver, I can't believe you just name dropped. Was it JJ Cools or something like that? The nightclub?
Oh, yes. Joe Cools.
Joe Cools. People are like blown away that you mentioned that by name. We've had so many people say, come here. My cousin actually runs a shark cage diving business, so you can go and do that. So, look, we've read all your comments. We saw your comments. We can't wait to put together the ultimate itinerary. And it is fair to say we'll be doing everything possible to get there in a year's time, Beav.
Well, the big question, Kirst, that came out of the tour podcast was, did I get the big five right, and did I get the capital of South Africa right? Was it giraffe?
You did not get the big five right, Beav. There are not 3 cats in the big 5.
Is there a giraffe involved?
No, I think it's a buffalo was one of them. So on that note then, let's talk about South Africa.
Yep.
Obviously, they've got a 5-match tour, and we talked about it up and down, up and down. They've got these sort of breaks in between. South Africa against Japan. Eddie Jones is already talking about the miracle in Brighton, Beav.
Yeah, and look, for the state of world rugby, wouldn't it be great if they had the miracle at Wembley, which is, of course, where they're playing this one in London at the iconic football stadium. But the thing about Japan these days, as opposed to 2015 World Cup, to 2019 World Cup, is, well, first of all, South Africa, I think, is a lot better position than they were in 15. But the Japan style of game doesn't catch anyone anymore, Kirst. It used to catch teams, particularly from the Northern Hemisphere, on the hop as far as this high-speed game, this high ball retention, and just the skill level of, smaller forwards, the Japanese smaller forwards, but they all had wonderful hands. And you go back to the Tony Brown and Jamie Joseph influence on the Japan game, not just the team at the time. So I don't think teams get caught on the hop anymore, particularly when you consider that the mastermind of some of those wonderful Japanese teams was, in fact, Tony Brown and Jamie Joe. So South Africa will be prepared for what's coming. And also, I mentioned there briefly, this South African team has so much depth and is a completely different beast, I think, to the one that tripped up in Brighton.
Even though they've managed to leave like a couple of massive names out of their 36. But Russie's calling this like a rotating squad. Name's 36, but he's like, might bring this player in, might bring that player in. So it seems like he can do whatever he likes. Are we going to see a surprise at fullback, Beav?
Well, just on the Russie do what I want come squad time, does anyone remember a certain World Cup when Pollard wasn't picked to start with and happened to be a replacement for a hooker? And ended up winning the World Cup for the country again. So look, I believe Rusty when he says it will be rotated. Yes, so potential injury, pulled hamstring from Williamson playing for the Stormers in the weekend in the URC. And look, they've got plenty of depth there. They've got Fussy there. There's talk of maybe putting Sasha back there with Lubbock at 10 or Pollard at 10. But For me, I can't see any parts of Cheslin's game that would not mean he could play 15. Could you imagine him at 15, Kirst? I know,
Has he played there before?
I don't know if he has, but my word, like, I mean, realistically, in the modern game, there's not a whole lot of difference defensively from a wing to fullback. You're all exposed to high ball pressure. Yeah, the covering the backfield. He'll be well and truly across. I just think it's been an opportunity to see if we can get more ball in his hands. If you're looking at it from a Springbok point of view, me and you obviously both grew up watching Christian Cullen, and
Mm.
could Cheslin Colby be that sort of fullback? Is he worth a
Is
punt?
that what you're thinking?
Why not? Like, you're playing Japan, respectfully. The miracle on
Yeah.
Brighton's a decade ago. It's not happening. This is a different beast. I would roll the dice and chuck Cheslin Colby back there and just say, go.
Okay, so someone tell us, has Cheslin Colby ever played fullback before? I'm sure he has. I'm sure he
Has
has
to.
at some stage. To what level? That is the question. And could you see him playing there? Could you see comparisons to the great Christian Cullen? Let us know in the comments. Obviously, that's going to be a one-sided affair, we imagine, Beav. But what about England, Australia? It is the 1-year anniversary of Joseph Suoli'i at the international stage at Twickenham.
Yeah, well, if they were caught on the hop last year by this guy standing at centre, I'm pretty sure they'd have done their homework on it this year. So you'd imagine they'll be a bit
Put him
better.
back to fullback just to, keep them on their toes, Beav, talking about fullbacks.
Yeah, well, exactly. Forget about the Australian performance against Japan a week ago. It was essentially Australia A, 13 changes from the one that played the All Blacks. So I think completely forget about that. I don't watch. I never used to watch a lot of rugby when I was playing, outside of whatever sort of games we had coming up to do the analysis on and the computer work. But this is always a game, Kirst, that I used to watch, and it still is today. It's one that excites you because
Yeah.
Australia and England have this wonderful sporting history, be it cricket, be it league, as we've just seen over the weekend, or now the rugby. And there's something about them playing at Twickenham which is must watch. And last year, they pulled off the biggest of all ball overs when no one gave them a chance, when they weren't travelling or didn't look as good as they do now. So I think it's going to be a wonderful game. Yep, Australia better than last year, Kirst, no doubt about it. However, I think England is too. And you think about some of the talent that's emerged in England. I don't know if you've caught up with the news of this 19-year-old that's playing for Saracens. He's
Who
been
is he, Beav?
Well, Kirst, I can't believe you haven't heard of this guy yet. Big Noah on the wing. He looks an absolute athlete, and England have included him in their final squad for this series.
An overnight sensation, they're calling him.
Well, I tell you what, if you're going to go scoring that many tries on your debut in the Premiership, then you're going to turn heads, aren't you?
How many tries?
I think it was 5, but look, I might be sprinkling a little bit on that.
5, okay. Then he's at least good for a double at Twickenham this weekend.
Wow, I tell you what, up against Jorgensen, if he gets picked, what a battle that will be. But the other fascinating thing for me is who's going to 10. Is it Finn Smith? Is it Marcus Smith? George Ford's still in the squad, but didn't pick Owen Farrell. And for me, that dictates how they play.
Who are you picking to play at 10 then against the Wallabies?
Look, I haven't seen, I don't watch enough Premiership to know, but there's a lot of talk around Finn Smith. There's a lot of people that just, and very good judges say that, yeah, very, very impressive. But from what I've seen, I love watching Marcus Smith at 10. Geez.
What is it about Marcus Smith?
Well, it's in the early time when he first came on the scene, just thought, just a bit of a flashy sort of player. But having seen him live on that tour a couple of years ago here in New Zealand and watching more and more of him, he's more than that, Kirst. He's got the X factor, he's got the brilliance, but he's also got the game control, knows what to do at the right times, wonderful kicking game, very good goal kicker. He's pretty complete. And when you think about him, as I'm saying these, you instantly think of people like Sasha and that. What a golden generation at the moment. That's sort of emerging. You've got Finn Russell waiting over there in Scotland for the All Blacks in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
You've obviously got our wonderful trio when Richie's back. I know we've talked about the Irish game, but who's going to be the Irish team? Because I guess that Munster victory has even heightened the chat around that as well. So a lot of teams have a lot of luxury at the moment around their first fives.
Who's going to be the 10 for the Wallabies? Who is the key man for them if they are to beat England on the weekend, Beav?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. Where Aussie have got to now, you sort of feel that they are such a cohesive unit. And because, remember at the start of this conversation around Ireland and how much of a unit they are and how cohesive they are, it's the old saying about the sum of the parts versus the, whatever that saying is, essentially saying that it's the team that is the powerful factor as opposed to the individuals. When you look at the Wallabies now, I don't think it's any coincidence that Joe Schmidt built that in Ireland and now he's building it in Aussie where, yep, they've got superstars, no doubt about it. They've got Icky Towers, they've got Sualei's, Skeltons and the likes. But when they're all on the same page and they're all humming, that's the greatest strength. It's a big tour for McDermott, I believe. And him and Gordon probably are still neck and neck in Joe's eyes. No one's really elevated themselves to take over from Nick White, who of course had a wonderful end to his career. So that'll be an important position. And then obviously we've talked about 10s at length, but you can't hide from the fact that it's got to be a 10 to take this tour by the scruff of the neck for the Wallabies, whether it be Liner. Obviously, Carter Gordon has been rushed back in from, well, let's just call it a sabbatical on the Gold Coast because he didn't play for the Titans. Yep. He did some training, hung out with some league boys, and now he's back straight into the Wallabies.
And straight back in as well. So do you expect he's going to play, right? Otherwise, why would they bring him straight back in? It's like Suaalii last year, comes straight back in.
Well, it's an investment, isn't it? Yeah, it's a position that you're weak in or you haven't solidified, and they're going, right, why do it for any other reason? If it's for the good of Australian rugby, then we throw them in there. Yeah, from a PR point of view, it doesn't look great, Kirst, that you're just putting some guy in that hasn't played rugby for a year who turned his back on you and went to league. But the reality is he'll be in the conversation at the 2027 World Cup, possibly even their starting 10. Who knows? So you put him straight in. And he'll get game time, no doubt about it. So you got him, you got Liner, you got Donaldson. Edmund played last week. Obviously, James O'Connor's up there already with Leicester still. So it'll be interesting to see if all things being equal, then it's still Liner's team. He did very well against the Lions, Springboks. So if he's back from that injury that seemed to have nibbled him for a long time now, he'll get first crack at it, I'm sure.
And another interesting factor, this is it for Joe Schmidt. These are his final tests in charge of the Wallabies. Imagine if he could finish off with a couple of big victories over there against some of the top nations in the world, get them into a top 6 position for the Rugby World Cup at home in 2027 and say, see you later, job done.
Well, it's fascinating you say about the couple of victories because I know I mentioned to you last week that I thought a 3 from 5 had to be a pass mark. They had to start winning games. And I know you raised some eyebrows saying, hey, come on, they're building. But I've seen the Aussie pundits, Timmy Horan, Morgan Turanui, both said on their podcast during the week that it's just a non-negotiable. They have to start winning. And it has to be a 3 from 5 minimum. So they will, as far as if you're doing the maths, there has to be an English victory, a France victory, or an Irish victory for the Wallabies. So what better place to start if you're Aussie than Twickenham?
I reckon they go 2 from 3 in those 3 big ones. They've obviously banked Italy and Wales as well. I'm confident of this Wallabies team. That is us, but we'll be back later on in the week, B, when all the teams are named. So more reaction to come right here on the Aftermatch with Kirst and Beav. Stay with us as always and make sure you like and subscribe.